All right, so welcome everybody. So first, an update with regards to the game against PC last week. It was one of those games that I felt really good about. It was one of those games that I felt very, very proud about. From a special teams perspective, we won that. And again, you may not be aware of this, but we're putting some stats together. The special teams, the last 2 years, have probably accounted for an incremental 100 yards a game for us. And not many teams can actually say that. So it's not just where you rank, let's say, in a particular category. It's how you do relative to the other team in that particular category, and that's pretty significant. You know, we've always emphasized special teams. Our special teams are doing a good job. We think in terms of special teams, if somebody breaks something or blocks a punt or kicks a field goal. Special teams are far more than that and have a great impact on the game. Just most people don't think about it that way. From an offensive perspective, I thought we did a great job mixing up what we needed to do. I thought we did a good job controlling the ball on the ground. Second time in a row, I think, where we had time of possession was greater than the other team. I'm not so much worried about that, but the ability to be able to move the ball, get some first down, keep the ball going, I think was good. I think with regard to our passing game, Tyler certainly got off to a good start. I think he hit 8 out of 8. But we're asking him to do the things that he can do, and he does those, and he handles himself very well under pressure, and he makes good decisions. He's doing a very good job for us at quarterback with what we ask him to do. Our running game, I think, has been good, especially acknowledging, we don't have Ocean and we don't have Hop. I think Kenny had another good game, and then when Jermaine had an opportunity to kind of get in the game, I think it was incredibly effective. Now, sometimes when you have totally fresh legs and you're getting in the game later in the game, and the other guy's a little tired, that gives you a little bit of an edge. But there wasn't any question that I thought he did an outstanding job. He ran really hard. There was no way one guy was going to bring him down, and I could not be more proud of what he did that day. That was a great game for him. In fact, that week, for last week, we had 2 offensive players of the week. It was Jermaine and Kenny. The offensive line wound up doing a good job. So I was pleased with that. From a defensive perspective, if you recall, what I was concerned about with Central Connecticut, they hurt us on the screens. PC is a very, very good screen team as well. What I was concerned about with our game against Central Connecticut, the defense did not react fast enough. The coaches we did not react fast enough to make that adjustment. We certainly got that fixed, I think, coming into this game, and they did a pretty good job moving the ball against us in the first half. They were headed toward a 500-yard game, and we did make great adjustments at halftime. We were able to shut down in the second half what they did, and lo and behold, they wind up with 56 yards total offense in the second half, and 290-something for the game, and that's kind of what you want from your defense. So the defense and the offense and the special teams, plus the defense had. What do we have, 4 turnovers? 4 turnovers, and our offense had none, right? So that's another big deal as far as the game goes. So you look at turnovers, you look at total offense, you look at scoring offense, you look at total defense, scoring defense. I was proud, and what the coaches did, I was proud of the team. So that was a good, solid victory for us. With regard to Monmouth, Monmouth at quarterback, they've got another kid who's a younger kid. He's a redshirt freshman, number 16, that has been splitting some time with number 12. He might even play instead of number 12. But number 12 did a great job against us last year. He threw the ball real well, and he did a great job running the ball against us. He gained about 66 yards himself for about a 7-yard average. Their running back, number 21, last year against us, he had a record game. He had a personal high. He gained about 200 yards against us, averaged 7 yards a carry. Ambush, their number 7, their leading receiver from a year ago, he had 9 catches against us. Now they throw the ball to him and another kid, Howard. So on paper, we know that this is a game that we're supposed to do well in, especially playing at home. But last year, we kicked a field goal in the 4th quarter to win the game. As a head coach, I could not have been more disappointed. And our offense, they held our offense to 100 yards rushing and a 2.7-yard average. So I could not. Now, special teams held their own, but I was embarrassed offensively. I was humiliated with what we did on defense. You got to give Kevin Callahan, their coach, credit, and their staff and their kids for playing a great game at their place on homecoming. I'd like to see the guys that played in that game come back from that. We cannot play like that. Coast Carolina can't play like that, so we got to continue to play more consistently, and I'm optimistic we'll do a good job of that as far as this coming Saturday's game go. But make no mistakes. You look at them in some of their games, and then you look at them against our game last year, and you say, wow, these guys really look pretty good. So at the end of the day, it's still relative. What kind of performance are we going to have relative to the performance they're going to have? Our coaches know this. My players know this. Everybody knows how I feel about it. And we need to stay consistent the rest of the season, and we got to be consistent this week.
Can you explain again, why do you like such an emphasis on special teams as opposed to everybody some other college programs?
Because people know. Everybody knows you got to have offense. You got to be able to score, right? Everybody knows that. Everybody agrees on that. The one thing everybody will agree on, some people have different philosophies offensively, but everybody agree you can't turn the ball over, right? From a defensive perspective, you're not going to win championships if you don't have a good defense. Maybe if our defense had been better in the past, who knows? Maybe we would have won a national championship. Special teams, everybody talks about special teams. It's a third of the game. It's a third of the game. And the biggest plays that can happen, think about, to me, a block kick, for example, a block punt, is one of the most devastating psychological plays in football. Think about what we do in terms of some of the two-point stuff. Think in terms of the blocks that we have on the field goal or the extra point. Think about how effective we are. In the last 2 years, our net punt, the net punt return, is close to zero for us. That's over 2 years. So think of the card. Now think of the field position. When you look at what we do in terms of our punt return team and the ability to block a punt, that's been very, very solid. The differential often is, let's say, 12 yards. If you just take punt and their punt and our punt. If the differential is 12 yards a punt, and you have 5 punts in common, that's 60 yards of an advantage you've given your team. So how many times this year has our offense had an opportunity to start a drive on the other side of the 50? How many times has our defense had the opportunity to start to go in there when the other team's in the red zone? Now, those things happen for one of two reasons: turnovers or outstanding special teams play. Special teams are a real reason why we have been as effective as we have, here as a program. I already said, I think what I want to say about Jermaine, I think he had an opportunity to come in. One of the things we talk about to our guys is that you got to be prepared to step up, because you never know when you're going to get that opportunity. And when you have some injuries, two things got to happen. One, it's an opportunity for you as a player to step up and play, whereas you may not have had that opportunity without those injuries. And it's an opportunity for the team, or at least that side of the ball, to come together. So offensively, we need the entire offense to come together. And at the positions where we've had problems, Tyler has certainly stepped up. We bring Ryan Lee over. He's been effective when he's in there. And you look at what Kenny's done, and even Raekwon in terms of what he did a couple of weeks ago and what Jermaine did the other day. The guys are stepping up, but the rest of the offense is stepping up as well. I'm proud of that. With regard to Jermaine, remember I said, sometimes you come in the latter part of the game and you got fresh legs, and you've been beating the other guys up a little bit. Sometimes that gives you an advantage. Having said that, I couldn't be prouder of what he was able to do the other day. His average per carry, the way he wouldn't go down, his score, all those things. I mean, I couldn't be prouder of that. Now, that's one game. So Jermaine, I'm sure more than anybody knows that he's got to be able to do that on a consistent and regular basis. Based on what we've seen in terms of his work ethic and his athletic ability, what we saw when we recruited him in high school, we expect him to do that. He's getting a chance a little bit earlier than he may have as far as his career goes. So our best guys are going to play. You do a good job on the field, clearly you're going to be playing for us.
Coach, last week you talked a bit about your redshirt philosophy, and we've identified Jermaine and Ryan Lee as a couple guys that potentially would have redshirted under ideal circumstances. Can you identify any other players that you would have redshirted that may not have that opportunity?
If I had a list in front of me, Alan, all I'd do is I'd go down what true freshmen are playing this year. And, I'm sure I'm going to leave somebody out, but last year we had some freshmen playing. Fitz Watley played last year. Michael Billings played last year. I'm just kind of thinking now.
Max Joseph, for instance, or is he somebody that would have been a candidate to redshirt if maybe injuries had forced him into more action?
But not if he was going to be one of the good. Not if he worked his way up in the depth chart. Coming into the season, A.J. Sattinger had the tight end job. He deserved it. He earned it. And the second team slot was frankly very much open. If a freshman earns that slot, the freshman's going to get that slot, and therefore he would have been playing.
Coach, could you go over your?
So, but I'm glad to take a look at I got to look at the list, though. Because frankly, I'm not thinking about whether or not they're freshmen, not a freshman. They're good enough to play, they're going to play. Now, remember, too, we got freshmen on special teams.
Could you clear up your depth chart a little bit at running back? I hate to keep pounding on this.
Right
but-
now.
Yeah, right now.
the depth
And
chart-
what's the status
right now,
on
the-
Henderson,
the-
Daniels, and Jermaine for the next game?
Henderson, I don't expect to play this week. Oshamar, I don't expect to play this week. I expect Kenny to start, and I expect Jermaine to back him up. All right, now I want to share something with you. Let's get a little bit culture, real world in here. Let's talk about life after football for a moment. So I don't know if you're aware of this, but this coming Tuesday, we have this thing called an election. And it's probably the most significant thing going on in the world that day. Think about this. It's the most significant thing going on in the world that day, and too often we don't talk about that. And as I've shared with you guys, I think you know we are the only program in the nation that gives up 30 minutes of practice every Thursday, and we spend that time with our guys talking about stuff that doesn't have anything to do with football. And when we talk about the situation globally, we talk about we live in the greatest country in the world, but there are hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people with unlimited funding that will not hesitate to give up their lives to take our lives away because they think we're evil. That gets into a whole thing with regard to terrorism. Our guys know something about terrorism because we talk about it all the time. I 100% believe there is no doubt in my mind it's the biggest single threat in the entire globe today, and that's probably going to be true for the next couple of generations. So for colleges and universities and high schools, for our kids not to understand that is ridiculous, number one. Our guys understand it. Number two, well, how do we protect ourselves then? That's our military. Now we got November 11th to come out. That's our military. We have 9/11. We talk about that. And you've got guys that are the same age as my guys putting their lives on the line in some godforsaken desert in the Middle East someplace. Why? So we can play college football, so we can live in freedom. So how do we approach that? We say that, number one, we should be appreciative of that. I like to believe our guys are. And the other thing is you take responsibility for your freedom. Freedom doesn't come cheap. Freedom doesn't come free. You have rights and liberties that your nation has to defend. You take responsibility for those. That's everything about BAM. Now, we live in a democracy, and you can only pray that our military and political leaders will make the right decisions based on everything going on, regardless of what that might mean for their career. It's too much at stake. And what's our role in that? In that democracy, we have the opportunity to vote. We have the opportunity to select our leaders. So we've been talking about this since last spring. And the last month or so, seldom would a Thursday go by. We want to spend a little bit of time on it. Last Thursday, this is what happened. In fact, you know what? We should have invited all of you to come in on this. Two of our interns, Kramer Cook, he dressed up. He was wearing a pantsuit. He was Hillary Clinton. He wasn't wearing a wig. Wasn't wearing makeup. Pantsuit. And Mike Snyder, dressed up in a suit. He was Donald Trump. They were introduced. They come into the room. They're held to the chief. Everybody claps for them. They go up the front of the room. Each of them tells 2 minutes about what they believe, and then they attacked each other for 2 minutes. Then the guys had a chance to ask questions. That's 30 minutes. Now remember, we have meetings after that in practice. After 40 minutes, I stopped and said, how many guys still have questions? There's still not 7 or 8 hands in the air. I said, I want every one of you to ask those questions, but let's keep it simple. If you ask Mr. Trump a question, then you can't ask another question. You can't ask Hillary. And Hillary, you can't opine on that. So you ask one question of one candidate, and we kind of wrap it up. I pushed all the meetings back. There were still questions at the end, and I had to table it. The questions were not okay. The questions were great. I could not have been prouder of our guys the other day. They were fantastic. You would have been proud of them. And every one of our guys are going to vote this coming Tuesday. And that's something I'm incredibly proud of. The military, the service academies do that. There's not going to be one other university football team in the nation that's going to do that. And you know what? Probably every one of them should be. But none of them are. We are.
Are you going to load them up on a bus and
Yeah.
kind of do this as a team?
Yeah.
Tell me
Yeah.
how that's going to work.
We're going to have schools off. Schools off, why? So people can vote. So what does usually happen in football? You have more meetings. You have longer practices. We're not going to do that. We're going to adjust the schedule a little bit, but we're going to pretty much keep the same schedule. At 10 o'clock, our guys are going to get on the bus, and we're going to have 2 buses, and we're going to Conway. Some of the guys have already voted in terms of absentee ballot. They'll probably go just to be supportive of the other guys. and they'll go in, and we'll go to the polls in Conway. The guys get off. All the guys, that, because of their full-time university status, can vote locally. They already picked up their ID cards, the voting ID cards. They're already registered. All that stuff's been done. They can get up. They're going to go on the polls, and they're going to vote. Now, we're trying to get the pollsters, or whoever runs the polls, they know what we're doing. And, can you give us a handful of booths so we can kind of get it out of there? We're not staying on line for like 2.5 hours. But we're going to have our guys vote. They're going to do that. We're probably going to try to take video of that. I would suggest you guys come to this. Fox Business, or Fox, is going to want to talk about it nationally. I'll do an interview with them at 4 o'clock to talk about this. The video is going to be on that. The video is going to be there, going to be on their stuff, and that's what's going to happen.
Who are you voting for and why?
I'm going to vote for Trump, and the reason why I'm going to vote for Trump, I think, by the way, I don't like Trump, okay? I think he's arrogant. I think he's narcissistic. But when you're a democracy, in order to get something done politically, you have to compromise very, very often. So what we have in our country is decade after decade of compromise after compromise after compromise. That's why you've got a 17,000-page tax book. It's ridiculous. So you have too many compromises. The foundation of our country right now, with all the threats we have going on, is not as solid as I believe it should be. I think it really needs to be shaken up. A typical politician is probably not going to do that. I think Trump will do that. I cannot stand his arrogance. I cannot stand some of the things that he's done. But I believe his approach with regards to policy, approach to trade, approach to business, approach to taxes, his approach to terrorism, I think are things that the country desperately needs now. And for those reasons, I don't like him, but I think he would do the best job for us as president.
You know him? You ever met him?
No. I was one of the CEOs, of course, in his first year on Apprentice. USA Today, I think the show was like a Wednesday night, and Thursday morning, they sent us the show Wednesday afternoon, and Thursday morning, they would get each of our opinions. Like, so there'd be my picture and other guys' pictures, and what we thought about the show next to that. We did that the whole first season. He invited all the people that were doing that to go and have dinner with him, but I knew it was going to be a dinner like with 1 million other people, and I have no interest in that, so I didn't do that.
From
But
your gathering of the whole team, are they kind of leaning Trump, or are they leaning Clinton?
I think they were, clearly the other day at the debate, they were leaning Clinton. But, if they're paying attention to what's going on, anybody that was leaning that way, as opposed to, if you're convinced Hillary's your person, you're not going to change your mind on that. But if you kind of lean toward Hillary because you don't like Trump, well, you're probably going to rethink that again. So bottom line is, if Trump handled himself better, he would have been 20 points ahead in the polls. He didn't. He handled himself horribly. And he was going to lose the election because of the way he handled himself. Now, at the end, with these things coming out, he's got a shot at it. So, by the way, I am not a Republican. I'm independent. I don't care what your political affiliation is. I voted for Romney. The time before that, I voted for Obama. I don't care what your affiliation is. I'm independent. I gave you the reasons why I would vote for Trump, and I don't like the guy. But I think he'd be the good thing for our country. By the way, I've not told any of my players that. And if they asked me, I think I would have to tell them, but I don't want to influence them. So I don't know. If they asked me to do that, like this Thursday's meeting, I think I would tell them, but I'd want them to make up their own mind. Any other good questions?
World Series prediction.
Well, the Ricketts own the Cubs, and the Ricketts were the founders of Ameritrade, and Joe Ricketts is actually the guy that hired me. So
Always a connection.
I'm rooting.
Always a
I'm
connection.
rooting for the Cubs, but I think the Indians. They're both two great teams. Anything can happen. 7th the game at home. I go with the Indians tonight, but I'll be rooting for the Cubs.
That's a great
Anything else?
I'm actually doing something on the offensive line this week. If you could just talk a little bit more about them, and I know you have a lot of seniors there too. Just talk a little bit about the future as well with the offensive line.
Well, first, we've had a prolific offense since we've been here. We average 30-something points a game, and we're doing a pretty good job offensively. We're averaging 30-something points a game right now. So a lot of credit to that certainly would go to our staff and our players, but you cannot have a good offense without a good offensive line, period. End of story. That's it. Okay, so one of the things, Pat Covington is our offensive line coach, and I think he's outstanding. I think he really does a good job. And what he does is he brings the younger guys along. So if you kind of watch, he doesn't hesitate to move a guy from left tackle or right tackle, from guard to center, from center to guard, that type of thing. So he's got about 18, 19, 20 players, but he'll always have 10, 11 guys, 12 guys ready to go, but he's always able to intersperse his like best 8 or 9 guys at the 5 spots, so we always have pretty good guys there. And 2 years ago, we didn't have. We had almost nobody coming back as a line. We came back and we averaged something 40 points a game. Our offensive line, because of our coach and because of the commitment we got from our players, we're going to be fine. What's going to happen yet, we don't know. We'll see when spring practice comes.
I mean, I feel good about it. Want to be able to do it without my O-line. They move people off the ball, and I just hit the creases.
How comfortable did you feel once you kept getting more carries?
Actually, like in high school, I always had like butterflies before the games, but when I got to college, like, I don't know, I was just ready. I didn't even have any butterflies or anything like that. From the first snap, I just got the ball and did what I was supposed to do.
Specifically, how different is this offense from what you were used to over at Conway? What do they do, and what opportunities do they give you as a ball carrier? Well,
at Conway, I mean, we did run RPOs, run pass options. Here, it's a lot faster. You get down, you get on the ball, you got to think more because now blitz pickup is way more important. Everything moving fast. Like, you really got to slow the game down and focus. And, I mean, at Conway, pretty much you get the ball and just do whatever you want to do. But in college, it's not like that. You're not the fastest, biggest, best guy on the field like you used to be. So, you got to be more calm. You got to read the blocks more, hit the holes. Don't go outside when you're not supposed to go outside if it's an inside zone play. So you just got to be smarter about it.
You heard what Coach just said. You're kind of the flavor of the month right now, coming off that big game. But how lively is the competition for playing time between you and the other back?
I mean, they're older than me. They know basically the playbook better than the coaches do. And I'm still learning, so, I mean, I expect them to play more than me. But when I get my shot, I'm going to take advantage of it.
Who's helped you the most your freshman year?
It'd probably be Henderson. Hop, he, if I have a problem with something, he'll help me out. If I mess up in practice or something, I come to the sideline. He'll tell me what I did wrong and how to do it right and whatnot. He helped me with the plays. He'll just randomly ask me what this play, what I'm supposed to do, and just go from there.
Just talk a little about the offensive line and kind of how special they are.
Yeah, that's a special group. I mean, I get along with all of them. We talk every day. They're cool guys. When I get in the game, I'm a freshman, so that would be like just trust it, just trust the holes. Don't try to bounce it, just trust the hole. So that's what I do. I just follow them and they get the job done.
Is that a part of the reason? Is that a part of the reason that you felt fewer butterflies coming in? Does that have to do with the line, or what's the reason for that?
I think that was a major reason. I'm a freshman, so when I was about to get in, everybody in the huddle, just relax. Just do you. Just play football. You don't have to think about it all that much. Just run the ball. It's not a big deal. Just run the ball.
John Maine, could you talk a little bit about Monmouth, what problems they present defensively?
On defense, they run kind of similar defense to PC. They have a middle linebacker. He's like 250, something like that. He can move pretty well. So, got to keep our eyes open for him. Hopefully get an O-lineman on him. The DBs are really like the same, They'll tackle, but they don't want to tackle. But other than that, the D-line, they got a pretty big D-line. So like I said, we just follow the O-line.
How jacked up are you this week?
Oh, I'm excited. It's really I'm getting probably a good bit of play time. It's a home game, family coming out. Got a couple teammates coming out. Maybe Coach Jordan or something might come out. So it's exciting.